When most traders sit down at their screen, the first thing they do is hunt. They scan for excitement. They look for the setup that makes their heart beat a little faster. They open 3 more charts, add 2 more indicators, refresh the news feed, and wait for that little electric feeling that says, this one, this is the trade. They're not looking for a good trade. They're looking for a thrill that happens to look like a good trade. And somewhere across the world, a trader in the top 1% is sitting down at the exact same moment. And they're doing something almost embarrassingly dull, so dull that if you watched over their shoulder, you'd be disappointed. You'd think, that's it? That's what separates them from me? Yes, that's it. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about the gap between the 1% and the 99%. It is not a knowledge gap. You've watched the videos, you know about risk management, you know about position sizing, you know you should journal. The information isn't missing. What if the reason you're stuck in the 99% isn't that you lack the secret? It's that you've been quietly allergic to boredom this entire time. That's the silent killer. And it's exactly what we're going to explore. Most traders believe that elite traders have more setups, more indicators, more screen time, a sharper edge, a hidden pattern, some private level of insight the rest of us never get access to. So they keep adding another strategy, another confluence, another guru. They build their trading like they're stacking weapons before a war, until one day they realize the 1% aren't fighting that war at all. The traders at the very top are not doing more than you. In almost every case, they are doing dramatically less. Fewer trades, fewer indicators, fewer decisions per day. They have stripped their process down to something so lean it almost looks lazy from the outside. This is the first concept I want you to sit with because everything else in this video grows out of it. I call it subtraction over addition. The 99% try to win by adding more tools, more activity, more excitement. The 1% win by cutting the noise, restraining the impulse, repeating the same boring action until it becomes invisible to them. The amateur asks, what else can I add to my edge? The professional asks, what can I remove until only the edge is left? The 7 things we're about to walk through are all subtractions. Every single one of them is something the 99% know about and deliberately skip. Not because it's hidden, but because it's slow, unglamorous, and offers no dopamine in the moment. This is the same mindset the most consistent traders in the world operate from. The legends people quote weren't manically adding complexity. They were obsessively protecting simplicity. They found a few things that worked, and then they did the much harder thing. They kept doing them when it was boring, when it felt like nothing was happening, when every part of them wanted action. But here's what most traders miss about this. The reason you skip the boring 7 isn't laziness. It's something happening inside your brain that you've never been taught to see. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stay with me. Let me tell you about a trader I'll call Marcus, because his story is the story of almost everyone who eventually makes it. For the first 3 years, Marcus was a collector. He collected strategies the way some people collect receipts. He had a folder of indicators, screenshots of other people's setups, 6 different systems he rotated through depending on his mood. His charts looked like a cockpit, and he was proud of that complexity because complexity felt like sophistication. It felt like he was a serious trader. He blew his first account in 4 months, then his second. Each time he did the same thing, he assumed the problem was that he was missing something, so he added another course, another indicator, another layer. The turning point wasn't a winning trade, it was a conversation. A trader he respected looked at his screen, sat in silence for a moment, and asked one question. What would happen if you deleted all of this and only took one setup with the same risk every single time? Marcus said it would be boring. The other trader smiled and said, now you understand the job. So Marcus did it. He stripped everything. One setup, one fixed risk, a simple log after every trade. For the first 2 weeks he was miserable. He felt like he was watching paint dry while the market moved without him. He missed dozens of trades that could have worked. The boredom was almost physically painful. But at the end of the first profitable quarter of his life, he understood. The boredom hadn't been the obstacle, the boredom had been the edge. The thing he'd spent 3 years running from was the exact thing he'd been searching for. Now let me show you why this works in numbers. Because this isn't a feel-good story, it's mathematics. Imagine 2 traders. The first has a brilliant, complex strategy with a theoretical 5% edge, but because it's complex and exciting, he executes it inconsistently, he overrides it, skips entries, doubles down when he's bored, takes revenge trades when he's down. In practice, his behavior drags his real edge to 0, sometimes below it. The second trader has a boring, simple strategy with a tiny 1% edge, but she executes it identically every time with the discipline of someone clocking in. No overrides, no excitement trades, no deviation. Over 10 trades, you can barely tell them apart. Over 50, a gap appears. Over 500 trades, the boring 1% edge, executed flawlessly, has compounded into a completely different life than the brilliant 5% edge, sabotaged by its own owner. The math is brutal and it does not care how clever your strategy is. A small edge applied consistently beats a large edge applied emotionally, every single time without exception. Think of it like a leaking bucket. The 99% keep pouring more water in, more strategies, more effort, more activity, while ignoring the holes. The 1% stop pouring entirely and just patch the holes. Same bucket, wildly different result. But here's what most traders never realize. Knowing all of this changes nothing. Marcus knew about discipline before that conversation. You know about it right now. The real battle was never out there in the strategy. It's in here. And that's where we have to go next. Part 1. The excitement trap. The reason boredom feels like danger to your brain. Here's what's actually happening inside you when you sit down and the market is quiet and there's no good setup. Your brain does not register nothing is happening as neutral. It registers it as a problem, as a threat. Because the human brain was never built for stillness in front of opportunity. It was built to act, to hunt, to do something. So a feeling rises, restlessness. A low hum that says you should be doing something. And that feeling is uncomfortable enough that you'll do almost anything to make it stop. So you take a trade you don't believe in. You tighten a stop you shouldn't touch. You add an indicator to manufacture a signal. And the moment you act, the discomfort vanishes, replaced by the small electric hit of being in a trade. That hit feels like progress. It is actually the most expensive thing in your entire trading career. This is what the excitement trap looks like from the inside. Boredom rises, restlessness builds. You take an unnecessary action to relieve it. The action loses money. The loss creates a new, bigger need for excitement to make it back. And the cycle tightens. Each loop makes the next loop stronger. It is a spiral, and most traders live their entire trading lives inside it without ever naming it. Now watch the contrast, because this is where the 1% separate themselves completely. The amateur trader feels boredom and reads it as a signal to act, because to him, boredom means he's falling behind, missing out, wasting the session. The professional trader feels that exact same boredom and reads it as a signal that she's doing the job correctly. Same feeling, opposite interpretation. One builds an account, the other spirals one away. The amateur trader needs the market to entertain him. The professional trader has made peace with the market being boring because she understands that boredom is the natural resting state of disciplined trading. If you're constantly excited, you're constantly acting, And if you're constantly acting, you're constantly leaking. One sits in stillness and waits, the other can't tolerate the silence for 90 seconds. Before we go further, if any of this is landing, take a second and subscribe. Not because I need the number, because if you're someone who battles this, you need the reminder more than once, and you won't get it from anywhere else in your feed. Your whole feed is engineered to keep you excited. This is one of the few places telling you to be bored on purpose. Now here's the part most people never see. The boring 7 things the 1% do aren't 7 separate habits. They're 7 different ways of saying the same thing. Tolerate the discomfort of doing less. Waiting for one clean setup instead of forcing 10D, that's boredom tolerance. Risking the same fixed amount every time instead of sizing up when you feel sure. Biased, that's boredom tolerance. Journaling a trade you'd rather forget, boredom tolerance. Walking away after you hit your daily limit, boredom tolerance. Sitting on your hands during the news instead of gambling on it. Reviewing last week's trades instead of hunting next week's. Closing the platform when there's nothing there. Every one of them is the same muscle. The 99% don't skip these because they're hard to understand. They skip them because each one requires you to sit inside a feeling you've spent your whole life learning to escape. That's the real gap. It was never information, it was your relationship with discomfort. So how do you actually build this? Not in theory, starting in your next session. Step 1, name the feeling out loud the moment it rises. When that restlessness hits and you feel the pull to do something, literally say to yourself, this is the excitement trap. Naming it breaks the spell because you can't be unconsciously driven by something you've consciously caught. Step 2. Set a hard trade ceiling before the session starts. Decide your maximum number of trades for the day before you open the platform and make it lower than feels comfortable. 2, maybe 3. The ceiling isn't there to limit good trades, it's there to make every trade expensive enough that boredom can't spend them for you. Step 3, keep a one-line boredom log. After every session, write a single sentence. Did I act out of edge or did I act out of restlessness? That one line, written honestly for 30 days, will teach you more about yourself than any strategy ever has. Stop hunting for the trade that excites you. Start waiting for the trade that bores you. Stop measuring a session by how much action you got. Start measuring it by how much restraint you held. Here's the rule. Write it somewhere you'll see it. If it feels exciting, it's probably costing you money. Now I know what some of you are thinking. But if I trade this little, I'll never grow my account fast enough. Here's the answer. You are not in the 99% because you traded too little. You are in the 99% because you traded too much. The slowness you're afraid of is the exact thing that builds the account you want. Speed is what blew the last one. But all of this only works if one deeper thing changes, and that's what I want to leave you with. In the end, the gap between the 1% and the 99% comes down to this. One group needs the market to be exciting, and the other has made peace with it being boring. If you've made it all the way to the end of a video about being more boring, you're already not someone who takes this lightly. You're not here for a thrill. You're here for the truth, even when the truth is unglamorous. That alone puts you ahead of most. So here's the shift. You stop being a trader who hunts for excitement and calls it analysis. You start becoming a trader who can sit in silence, do the boring thing one more time, and feel nothing. Because feeling nothing is what mastery actually feels like. The 1% were never more gifted than you. They were just willing to be bored when you weren't. If this reframed something for you, leave a comment with the one boring habit you're going to commit to this week. Writing it down makes it real, and I read everyone. And if you want to go deeper on the discipline side of this, watch the video I'll leave on screen next. The market does not pay the entertainers, it pays the patient. Go be boring.